Good afternoon, guys. My question is about a pretty hot topic on the forums. Um, in D2, you had the hostile system for PvP, and during the open world, and you're going more towards a arena style PvP right now. Is there Can you elaborate on your thought process behind that, or are we going to see some other kinds of PvP systems later on besides just the matchmaking arena?
So our thought process was that there was this fantasy in Diablo 2 of I'm out in the world, I'm excited, I'm fighting, and then all of a sudden another player shows up, and it's this tense moment of who knows whether they're going to attack me or not, or whether my teammate's going to suddenly turn against me or not. And the truth is that those things happen in isolated incidents when Diablo 2 first came out. And then pretty much the vast majority of PvP encounters either were I got ganked by somebody who town portaled back to town and went hostile while a frozen orb was still in the air. Not awesome. Or I just put a password on my game because I never want to be ganked. So the fantasy of that hostile encounter, it never happened, and all it did was really make people not want to play together. And so we took a stance on Diablo 3 that we will never do harm to the co-op game. We'll never do anything that will make people not want to play together. And also, we kind of looked at it too as that really wasn't a great PvP system. It was kind of turning on a bit, but not really truly supporting PvP. So we wanted to focus a lot more on a dedicated mode that would allow those players who really want to play PvP to do it with some actual support, with a progression system and arenas built for it, and UI and all the great things that you'll get from PvP modes. So, and in the future, we will consider doing more PvP modes as well. And like I mentioned earlier today, I would love to have. Right now, we don't have like a way to duel, and so that's something I think we'd really like to add.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew from Australia. On behalf of all the Australian players, I just wanted to know if you guys were planning to introduce either an offline or a LAN play option, or alternatively actually bring some proper oceanic servers up so the rest of the world doesn't hate playing with us because of our latency.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's difficult for us because basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to consolidate the number of different data centers and servers around the world so that there's actually more people that are able to play against one another. But we are trying to address some of the inherent challenges with the oceanic realms. We introduced the ability to play in Southeast Asia or in North America so that you have that capability with StarCraft 2. Jason, if you want to talk a little bit about any tech you guys are investing to try and reduce the dependency on latency. I know that D3 is a little less latency sensitive than Star 2 was.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work to try to make latency better in the game for those people who have higher latency connections. But yeah, I don't have any more than that.
Yeah, the other thing we've done is in the ISPs down there, we've actually been working with them to try to find better routes back to where our data centers are at, because we know that our Australian, New Zealand player base is huge, and one of these days we may decide to put a data center down there. Right now, we're not planning to, though.
Thank you.
In D2, there were roughly 6 set quests you can do per act. In D3, are you going to have kind of that same feel, or because in D2 you can just kind of skip a lot of the side quests and go to the end? Is there going to be any more incentive to maybe do some side quests in D3?
I can answer the first part there, that we don't have a set number of quests per act. It's more of a natural flow for each act and story according to what makes sense for the story. It's not as it doesn't have as much of a pattern as D2 did. To encourage people to do subquests, a lot of the rewards, the good item drops or the rares, etc., are out there in the world on the random events or random dungeons. Likewise, the way that we've designed many of the quest objectives, some of them are fairly linear and have a strong story moment, but a lot of them have a strong exploration component. And as you're out there, looking for, let's say, a staff to, make something up randomly, you're going to find a bunch of other events and quests on there, and we try to develop that in such a way that there's no reason for you to not go ahead and do those. And in fact, it's going to be good for you on your way to finding that staff.
Thank you.
Hi, I wanted to ask if there will be any guild or clan implementation, because while it's good that you don't need a big bunch of people to play in Diablo 3, but still it would be good to interact with friends, or at least a permanent chat room where we can hang out, maybe link loots to each other. And I think this social aspect is very important for the game.
Yeah, you can applaud for guilds. Guilds are awesome. So the answer, guilds are awesome, but no, we're not supporting them. Sorry. Not at least for initial release, but we do see the value in them. I mean, we realize that Diablo's not a game where you're going to need a guild to do raids and things like that, but people still like to collect together and they still like to be social. It's one of those things where when we do it, I'd really like us to do it right. I'd like us to do more than just, say, a glorified chat channel. And there's been, some ideas in the past that were being floated for Diablo 2 that were really awesome ideas that we've definitely have on our wish list of things to add to Diablo 3 someday. So not right now, but maybe someday.
Thank you.
Hi. So in Diablo 2, pull up my question. All I played was hardcore, and the most horrible feeling was seeing your connection has been interrupted, and then logging back in and your character's dead. Is there going to be a thing to combat this technicality, or is that just another risk we take?
That's all you, dude.
That's a risk you take playing hardcore.
Jason, why are you killing everyone's hardcore characters?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the risk. I mean, the funny thing about hardcore is that it's one of those things where, when you play D2, you really wanted to play your hardcore character online so that you can show that it was real. So it's not even a thing where, people back then played it offline. It's one of those risks of, our goal is to make sure that the our connection is as fluid as possible, that that our server, if anything goes down, we'll do everything we can to make sure it's not our fault, at least. We can't guarantee the rest of the internet, but we can try and guarantee ourselves.
Well, I know one of those experiences that was really bad for everybody was when you'd portal in to, say, Duriel's lair with a hardcore character, and before you'd even loaded, you'd be dead. We don't want that. We don't want that scenario to come up for you, so we are actually designing around that. So.
Thank you.
Hey, my question is about the real money auction house. You said in Diablo 2 that you said there were shady dealer of third-party red sites, but you didn't really say if you were for or against them. I'm thinking about if you have the real money auction house and you have like a firm, like someone making a company just specializing in farming items and selling them on the real money auction house, and thus like earning their actual keep. If you're for it or against that, what's your stance on it?
Well, I think by calling them shady, we did take a stance on that, and how we feel about it. For us, it's all about the player experience and how good an experience the player is going to have. Going up to a website, you had to leave the game already. That's a bad experience. You might not get the item you want. That's a bad experience. You might get ripped off. That's a bad experience. It's cumbersome to do. That's a bad experience. It's not accessible to everyone, so some people have more riches than others. That's a bad experience. All of these things are things we wanted to fix. So we look at it and say, we want to give people a good experience. we don't have an expectation that people are going to be able to make a living off of this, but they might be able to make a little bit of extra money. And okay, cool. We have no real problem with that, as long as they're having a good and fun game experience.
Thank you.
So my question was about the scaling of AI and mechanics on bosses throughout the difficulties. So the Skeleton King does some sweeping strikes, but it's in one direction. He summons some skeletons. Maybe in Hell he like summons skeletons that summon more skeletons, and you have to kill the hive. Or he does even more mechanics that make the whole fight extremely difficult. And also, can I have a hug, Jay Wilson?
Can you have a hug?
Yeah.
Meet me after the panel. Not right now. Oh, like right out? No, I'm not doing that.
I tried, man.
To your first question, we have a couple things that we've done, but it's not as much as we'd like to. We actually, we're in the process of tuning the higher difficulties right now, and that's one of the things that is on our list of let's look at the higher level bosses and see if there's tweaks and things that we can make to their AIs and their scripts to make them a little different throughout. Probably only focus on the real major bosses to do that, but yeah, we have kicked it around. I'm not going to promise we're going to do it, but we would like to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, how you doing? I was just wondering, I've heard a lot of talk about the lesser evils playing a large role in Diablo 3. Will Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal come back to play a large role as well?
So we don't want to, let's see. The primary villains of the game we've essentially announced, and we want to stay vague about exactly when you fight them and exactly what they're after. We talked earlier at the lore panel. I'm not sure if you caught that, just like an hour and a half ago. Leonard explained that there is an object called the Black Soul Stone. This is the key to defeating evil forever. And Azmodan knows about it before you do, and so does Belial, and they're ahead of you, so you're already paying catch-up at this point. The first mystery of the game, which is in the beta, is what is this thing that fell from the sky? And the beta ends very shortly before you answer that question, which is why that's how much content you have to play in there, because we don't want to spoil that. So suffice to say that there is a major shift in the structure of the world that happens during Diablo 3. Like, some big things are coming, but not in a way that I can be specific as you want me to be to explain it, because it's going to be major stories. But certainly we answer a lot of questions about the primevals, we answer a lot of questions about the angels, and I think I can say that this game is sort of about the ascent of man. This is the moment where, more than any time in history, human beings come into their own and sort of find their place in the eternal conflicts, and you, the hero, are going to decide what that means for humanity. So it's a pretty cool story. I wish I could tell you guys more, but I really don't want you. I want you to experience it, in the flow of the game that we have.
Thank you.